One issue that we have with our function is that we can't use the result that it generates. We can only see it printed in our command window, but that's everything. What if we actually want to use the value of the sum, like we do with the built-in sum function of MATLAB? To achieve this, we need to make our function have output to return a value. We have to set the function itself equal to a variable, some variable name, and later we will give a value to that variable. Once the function has completed its job and some value is set to this variable, that variable will be returned to the script that invoked this function. In our example, we already have that variable, it's the our sum variable. So we no longer need it here, and all that we have to do is simply set it equal to the function, like that. So, and as you can see, immediately everything got highlighted. Our sum got highlighted. This is the same variable that we are using right here in all of these places. So, let's go ahead and try it out. Let's go back to our testing class, and if we run the file now, if we run this code, it's still going to work. But now, as you can see, we are now getting our outputs as answer with the default variable of MATLAB. This is because here we are not using any variables. So we can say first sum equals to that, second sum equals to that, and we can also say third sum equals to that. If we run it again, you can see, let's comment this. If we run it again, you can see that now we have each of the sums in 3 separate variables. We can now use the value that was generated by our function file. So down here we can say total sum equals first sum plus second sum plus third sum, and if we rerun it, we get our total sum. Here we are simply using the values that were returned from the function. Now let's create another function. Let's create a function that calculates the average. It's another pretty simple function. So function which it will also return the average. So it returns average. And let's just use the same name both for the function and for the output. It doesn't really matter. You can call this average like that. It's still going to work. So this is a pretty simple function. We know that in order to calculate the average, we need to take the sum and divide it by the length, by the amount of items in the vector. So all that we're going to do is we are going to say average equals, we're going to use now our sum function. So we're going to say sum function of v divided by the length of v. Now here we are reusing a function that we created earlier in another function file. So functions can use other functions. You don't have to only use them in scripts, you can use them in other functions. Now if we go, now we have to save it, and let's go and try it. So let's say that we want the average of the first vector. Now let's run it. The average of the first vector is 5.5. We can also save it in a variable since we created an output. We created an output here, and here we can rerun it. Average, the first average, there it is. So there it is. We created 2 very simple functions with inputs, with outputs, and we even reused a function in another function.